Good morning. Welcome to the Kingsport News Hour. In the 16th year of Chungi, the 8th month and the 3rd day on the heavenly calendar. We're now on the day before a holy day, the 10th anniversary of Foundation Day and the 8th anniversary of the cosmic perfection level blessing and marriage of true parents. We'll be talking all about that tomorrow during the ceremony. So of course, tomorrow we will not be having a King's Report. We don't have King's Reports on Sundays or on holy days. And so for that reason, we will not have a King's Report tomorrow. So please keep that in mind. I always get one or two people saying, hey, there's a King's Report today. Okay, that's what's going to happen to the King's Report. Appreciate it. Of course, these King's Report videos are being streamed live on Rumble and Twitch, and then the Rumble video is being downloaded and then uploaded to my personal channel on YouTube. And so if you know people who are looking for it, you can tell them if that's where they can find it. All right, let's take our tour around the kingdom. And right now, it is, let me see where we're here. That's right. And by the way, if you see people moving around in the background, those are people who are preparing for tomorrow's event. I couldn't do it in my room because we have some extra people here, and we're sleeping 4 people in a room that is designed for a maximum of 3. It's a bit crowded, so I came outside here, or I came into the foyer of our facility here to do this stream. All right, so right now in Chongpyeong, Tennessee, it is 66 degrees with light rain, they say. Mostly cloudy and humid today with a thunderstorm high of 77 tonight. Low of 67, partly to mostly cloudy, warm and humid with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm. And then in father's hometown of Cheongju, North Pyongyang Province, Korea, 64 degrees and mostly clear. Low of 58 tonight with a shower in places this evening, otherwise low clouds. Tomorrow high of 79, partly sunny and humid. And then at the Cheongguk Palace in Northeast Pennsylvania, currently 65 and mostly cloudy. Areas of fog this morning, mostly cloudy and humid with a brief shower or two. High of 75 today, and then tonight cloudy and warm, humid with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm. Low of 66. Meanwhile, at the Liberty Rock Army Park and Campground in Limestone County, Texas, right now mostly cloudy at 76. Getting up to 82 today. That's all, yeah, not the 90 degrees that we've been having. Yep. Just checking to make sure I've got Texas. Yeah, okay, I do have Texas. Yeah, high of 82 today. Clouds and sun with a thunderstorm or 2, not as warm, humid this morning, then turning breezy. Tonight, low of 64, mainly clear and humid. At the Suncheon Palace in South Korea, it is 76 and mostly cloudy. Rain and a thunderstorm this evening, cloudy, warm, and humid, low of 73. Tomorrow, cloudy and humid, showers in the afternoon, high of 79. At the Gunma Palaces in Japan, currently 72 under mostly cloudy skies. 60 degrees low tonight under partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, times of sun and clouds, high of 82. And then at the Ilan property, we have 84 degrees right now under cloudy skies. The typhoon has passed, so we had a rather warm day today. Got up to about 95, I think. Tonight's going to get down to about 76 in the evening, shower in spots, otherwise partly cloudy. And tomorrow, high of 93, breezy and hot, plenty of sun. Okay, so that's Ilan. It's the subtropical weather in Ilan, Taiwan. And then let's go to Father's Word. Let's see here. We are in right now. All right, we're in the book on true families and the family pledge, and we're in chapter 2. And in chapter 2, Father, of course, goes through each individual phrase in the family pledge, all 8 verses, and explains them one by one. Right now, we are in chapter 2. Which section are we in? We're in verse 5. Verse 5. Then under that 5.1, and this is an explanation of the spirit world being in the subject partner position and the earthly world being in the object partner position, and that we are supposed to bring unity between those two. And then within that, we're in the second part of that. So basically, we're in chapter 5 point. I'm sorry. Yeah, chapter 2. Chapter 2, 5.1.2. Following. And we're, I guess, a little bit. Well, anyway, let's just go here. So here, Father says, speaking here in 1998, June 14th. I hear someone doing some speaker checks in the background. I'm sure that will not continue too long. So you must know the spirit world with a certainty. Okay. Remember, Father has 6 things, 6 elements that must be present in order for there to be a world of peace and unity. And I think the knowledge of spirit world with a certainty, not just believing, but knowledge of spirit world with a certainty is number 2, I think, 2 or 3. Number 1, of course, is a knowledge of God with a certainty, not just believing in God. It's not enough to believe in God, Father said. You've got to know him with certainty, so that you know him with, you are as certain of the existence of God or the existence of spirit world, or you are, as you are with the existence of the person who's sitting next to you. All right, so must be if you look at verse 5 of the family pledge, it says we are centering on true love. Every day we will work towards the unity of the spirit world, or the spirit world that is in the subject partner position, and the earthly world that is in the object partner position. There's what it says. So it will not work if you don't know the spirit world. And if you don't know the spirit world, or a person who does not know the spirit world cannot enter the completion era, Wansong Shide. Some people call that the perfection era, I call it the completion era. Okay? So that is why I am educating you about the content in the spirit world, together with the Word of God in the completed Testament era. There you go. It's completed Testament, right? It's not perfected Testament. It's completed Testament. All right, let's not get on that soapbox, at least for now. All right, so let's see what's happening. I hope that everyone has seen the Second Kings statement on the arrest of John. If you have not, please send me an email, tcelder@gmail.com. I've not received any requests, so I'm assuming that means that Richard, Panther, and the other continental directors in Europe and everybody else has done a good job of disseminating who needs to see it. But if you have not, for some reason, then please send an email to me, and I will send it to you by a return mail. So she's in prison, and according to media reports, she's in a room by herself that is about 72 square feet, 6.7 square meters. That's about the size, I looked it up, and according to the Google AI, it's about the size of a traditional garden shed. So it's quite well, but she has her own toilet. She has her own TV. So it could be a lot worse. The prison authorities arrange her movements so that she does not have interaction with other prisoners. She eats her meals. She takes her meals by herself. I don't know if it's it could be in her room, or I'm going to call it a room, not a cell, although it's a room that has a locked door that locks from the outside, of course. But she takes her meals by herself. She's able to shower and stuff like that by herself. So, well, as far as prison life goes, I think it's she's in a relatively um, good position. And this, by the way, the same prison that former President Park Geun-hye was in, and also Yoon Suk-yeol is in the men's wing of this prison. Of course, Hak Cha-han is in the women's wing, so the prison has two wings, one for men, one for women. Um, so, no, it could be a lot worse. But of course, she's become accustomed to the very comfortable and ostentatious life in the Cheongpyeong Palace, of course. And so I'm sure that compared to that, it is quite a downward move, shall we say. And we will see what happens. Perhaps at some point her lawyers will apply for a medical release. But even if the court grants it, for example, in the case of former President Park Geun-hye, she was granted a medical release, but she had to go to a particular hospital, and it was only for a particular time, and the prison officials were always there. So it's not like she was actually free to go around or go see some relatives or anything like that. So even if there is a medical release, her freedom of movement will be severely restricted. So we will see how it works out. She has to take it day by day. I will be speaking about this a little bit tomorrow during the ceremony, so I would encourage you to tune in for that. See, we speak in both Korean and English. In the English part, we'll refer a little bit to that. And tomorrow, the king will also, or at least he's expected to give a State of the Union address, and perhaps he will refer to this situation, or perhaps not. I don't know. He has not yet shared with me his manuscript for tomorrow. All right, so that's what she is doing. Yeah, I don't know what she thinks of the food. I'm sure it's jail food, Jail food is jail food. I doubt that she's enjoying it very much, but they say that the person who is able to adjust the most quickly to life in jail is able to endure it the longest. And so we will see what happens in the case of Japan, whether she's able to adjust quickly or not. All right, so that's what's going on there, and I'll continue to update you as I receive more information. I don't have any sources within the Family Federation. Let me just say that. I'm just gleaning stuff from media reports, and the media is quite interested in this situation, and so they are offering reports, and I try to filter out the obviously stupid stuff and give you what I consider to be credible information. All right, let's see. So President Trump spoke at the UN, and I'd like to go through his comments at the UN there. Richard Grenell is a former ambassador to Germany and also his former director of national intelligence during his first term, said that President Trump was what did he say, a refreshing breath of honesty or something like that. So let's see what he's telling us here. And here we go. Let me bring this up a bit. Watched by the world, President Trump returned. So now, remember in his first term, he went to the UN, and at least the first time he went there, people were actually laughing at him during his speech. Really, the UN was in the solid grips of the globalists back then and of the political Satanists back then. This time, they're not laughing. They are not laughing, that is for sure. So the atmosphere has changed quite a bit. And I think that is to President Trump's credit. Watched by the world, President Trump returned to the United Nations on Tuesday, boldly asking, "What is the purpose of the United Nations?" Yeah, amen to that. Yeah. Hold on a second. I have something going on with my chair here. Okay. The UN has such tremendous potential, Trump told the UN General Assembly in New York City. I've always said it. It has such tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential for the most part, at least for now. Yeah, and this is something that Father has been saying as well. All they can do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action. Amen to that. Trump opened with a blistering rebuke of his predecessor, former President Joe Biden, and the globalists of the UN, not only failing to make peace, but ultimately allowing wars to rage. 6 years have passed since I last stood in this grand hall and addressed a world that was prosperous and at peace in my first term, Trump said at the outset, despite a broken teleprompter. Since that day, the guns of war have shattered the peace I forged on two continents, and the era of calm and stability gave way to one of the great crises of our time. And here in the United States, 4 years of weakness, lawlessness, and radicalism under the last administration delivered our nation into a repeated set of disasters. Trump hailed the settling of 7 wars without any help from the UN. It's never happened before, Trump said. It's never been anything like that. I'm very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing that. Sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. Trump quipped that a broken escalator and faulty teleprompter symbolized the UN's dysfunction. Yeah, I think it does. Can't even keep their escalators going. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that, on the way up, stopped right in the middle. Trump said, if the first lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in great shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Trump hailed his role in brokering trade deals and in compelling NATO allies to increase defense spending. He also touted the U.S. destruction of Iran's nuclear facilities in Operation Midnight Hammer and his efforts to negotiate peace and conflicts from Gaza to Ukraine. The president rebuked the UN for failing to play a role in such efforts, instead accusing it of funding migration that undermines Western nations. Trump called uncontrolled migration the number one political issue of our time, pinning the blame on the weakness of the UN. Your countries are being ruined, Trump warned. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders. Trump called on member states to join him in forging a safer, more prosperous world, warning against nuclear and biological threats while insisting that sovereign nations must retain control of their borders and destinies. I'm really good at this stuff, Trump said. Your countries are going to hell. On Russia's war in Ukraine, Trump has repeatedly said Vladimir Putin has let him down, but now he says Putin is letting down his country and people too. Putin's war in Ukraine is not making Russia look good to the world, Trump said. In this hemisphere, Trump hailed his interdiction in military destruction of drug runners from Latin America. Let's put it this way: people don't like taking big loads of drugs in boats anymore, Trump said. There aren't too many boats that are traveling on the seas by Venezuela. Trump called global warming and climate change a con job perpetrated by bad actors and stupid people with good intentions but bad policy. Another UN official stated in 1989 that within a decade, entire nations could be wiped off the map by global warming. Trump said, not happening. It used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and 1930s, they said global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world. But then it started getting cooler. So now they just call it climate change, because that way they can't miss climate change. Because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter. History has continued to prove the UN globalists wrong, according to Trump. who hearkened to the Trump was right about everything campaign motto. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong, he continued. They were made by stupid people that have cost their countries fortunes and given those same countries no chance for success. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail. And I'm really good at predicting things. Okay, so that's here. That's Eric Mack, who was a writer and editor at the Newsmax. He graduated from Syracuse University 27 years ago. So it sounds like he's close to about 50 years old, I guess. New York Press Association award-winning writer. Right. Okay. So that is President Trump there at the United Nations, telling them what he thinks of them. Father proposed that the United Nations have an upper house, with the current General Assembly would become the lower house, kind of like the House of Representatives in the U.S. system, and then having an upper house or kind of a Senate-like system where the members would be representatives or leaders of various religions, so as to give the United Nations some sort of a moral compass and some kind of a religious wisdom. Although Father may have been a little bit, or maybe more than a little bit, optimistic on the motivation of religious leaders to serve the cause of world peace. You know, Father, I think I've mentioned this before, but I think I'm pretty sure I have. But when Father proposed the international highway and the Bering Strait connection, he said he didn't say the government should do this. He said that religions should take the lead in accomplishing this project. And you know, at first I thought, well, that's unique, or perhaps even a little bit out of the box. Yes, Father doesn't even know what the box is. He's always out of the box. But it was out of the box, and so I spoke to the Family Federation guy, who has always been a good friend of mine, who is in charge of interfaith outreach. And I asked him, you know, what should we do to get religions involved in this project? And his response shocked me. He said, well, what's in it for them? And I was stunned, actually, stunned to silence. Naively, I assumed that religions were, you know, interested in world peace, and that world peace was an end in and of itself. What's in it for them? I still don't know how to answer that question. And I still can't get over the shock that this is actually a thing. And, you know, and this brother knew the religions well. He interacted regularly with the highest leaders of the major religions around the world. So I'm sure that his statement, his question was the kind of questions that I would probably receive and would have to answer if I were to approach these religious leaders myself. Well, what's in it for them? Father assumes that, you know, that religions exist for the sake of peace and for the sake of connecting people to God and so forth, and this project would be a project of peace. So of course, the religions would be climbing all over themselves in order to get involved, but not the case. Not the case. Not the case. I think it's because religions, and this also goes with Family Federation, have become so secularized that they are about their own self-interest. whether that self-interest be financial, or whether it be influence or power, whether, or for a greater number of believers or followers. Of course, more followers means more donations, more offering, and more money, which money brings more power. And so it's all interconnected, just like it would be in a major corporation, for example. And that's really sad. And this is the mistake, of course, that not only Family Federation but also Preston's group, the Kwok group, has also made, thinking that that they need to become like the secular institutions of the world in order to be effective in the world. They have completely ignored Jesus' admonition to be in the world, but not of the world. They have completely become of the world. And because of that, they are, in the end, ineffective. As we see now with Hak Ja Han. Right now, in secular terms, Hak Ja Han is on the losing end of a power struggle. She supported a certain party, a certain candidate in an election, and the candidate lost, and the party also lost. And the winning party now is going after their opponents, and she's one of the opponents that they are going after. And they want to make sure that she does not have the ability, or that Family Federation does not have the ability to challenge them again in a future election. So basically, it's a power struggle on the secular level. And of course, Family Federation, although it made the choice to become of the world, they are completely unprepared to play in the big leagues when it comes to this kind of a power struggle. They're like babes in the forest. I mean, look at the way that they actually documented their crimes on text messages. Who does that? I mean, come on. If you watch for example, The Sopranos, you saw how they went to all sorts of tricks and things to prevent the law enforcement authorities from listening in on them, right? Of course, burner phones are standard, and they would use other tricks as well to sort of fool or at least to take advantage of the law. And they knew what the law was. For example, they knew that the police could not put any listening devices in a doctor's office, and so they would have some of their secret conferences in a doctor's office. This kind of thing. So unless you're doing it on that kind of a level, you're not going to survive in this kind of a professional power struggle. These guys in the Family Federation were actually texting each other, leaving a paper trail. I'm not defending them at all, but it just illustrates how they've become of the world, and yet they're far from being at that level where they can actually compete in a full-scale power struggle, and at the national level. Power at the national level is concentrated. It's a huge prize, and people will go to all sorts of lengths to get that power. Anyway, so this is the reality not only of the Family Federation, but other religious groups as well. Although I think probably other religious groups have become much better at playing this power game than the Family Federation is. So anyway, we'll see what happens to them over the next weeks and months. All right. So let's see here. Next, I wanted to go to Well, let's get this one out of the way. Yeah. Every time they say this, I guess I have to. I guess I have to express my dismay once again. And I suppose, diplomats, they have to say certain things. It's kind of like a kabuki script, I guess. Um, the kabuki, the theater genre of Japan, where you know that things aren't real, but you still enjoy them anyway. Um, and as I've said, the complete denuclearization of North Korea will only happen when there is a regime change, a radical regime change in North Korea. Uh, but they still continue to talk about it. All right, U.S. State Department confirms. Okay, that's what they get paid to do. So, all right, so we won't scold them too much. They're just doing their job. All right, meanwhile, Mr. Putin, in whom President Trump is disappointed, is being accused now of sending drones into NATO capital cities. So, assuming this is true, and it very likely could be true, things are ratcheting up. And this is what he does, right? This is his modem, the modus operandi. Putin is being blamed for a series of drone incursions that shut down airports in two NATO capital cities and led to massive disruptions to flight traffic. Air traffic controllers in Copenhagen shut down arrivals and departures for a space of roughly 4 hours late Monday night, affecting more than 20,000 passengers after 3 drones were spotted nearby. Flights were also halted in and out of Oslo, with tens of thousands affected. The disruptions come hot on the heels of Russian violations of 2 other NATO member countries' airspace over the past 2 weeks. Estonia has described the entry of 3 Russian fighter jets on Friday as unprecedentedly brazen, while Poland, where NATO forces shot down at least 20 Russian drones earlier, has warned this situation brings us closest we have been to open conflict since World War II. The Estonian government has since invoked NATO's Article 4, outlining member states' obligation to mutual self-defense in the event of any one of them comes under attack, sparking emergency consultations across the alliance. So Article 4 is different from Article 5, so let's not get this confused. Article 5 says if any one of us is attacked, that's the same as each one of us being attacked. So in other words, if Estonia were actually attacked by Russia, then the United States would have to deal with that situation just as if the United States itself had been attacked by Russia. So Article 5 is quite serious. Article 4 says that if you think that your sovereignty is being violated or is under threat, then you can call a meeting of other member countries and they sit around and talk about what to do. So given these developments, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky was quick to point the finger at the Kremlin for Monday's drone sightings in Denmark and Norway. Writing in an ex-post at a meeting in New York, he had devoted special attention to Russia's violations of the airspace of NATO member states, including on September 22nd in Copenhagen. Okay, this is his quote in English. While authorities in Denmark and Norway have yet to name any suspects, the Danish Prime Minister said Monday night, "I certainly cannot deny in any way that it is Russia," adding that the incident represented the most serious act so far against Danish critical infrastructure. Moscow, for its part, has denied any involvement with the Russian ambassador to Denmark, saying it reveals a clear desire to provoke NATO countries into a direct military confrontation with Russia. So that's the the Russian ambassador. Events of the past 2 weeks, nevertheless, appear to underscore a new and deliberate Russian strategy of testing European defenses and political cohesion at the European Union, as the European Union weighs a new package of sanctions against the Kremlin, and particularly targeting tankers that form part of Moscow's lucrative sanctions-busting shadow fleet. So it looks to me like this strategy is something that Russia learned from China. This is what China is doing against Taiwan, especially, but also against South Korea, and of course, more aggressively, actually, against the Philippines. In Philippines, of course, they're actually attacking some of the Philippine boats that go into waters claimed by China, attacking them with a water cannon and so forth. EU leaders are now set to discuss a collective response to the airspace violations in Estonia and Poland at an upcoming European Council meeting scheduled for October 1 in Copenhagen. All right, so that's that's going on there. So gradually, Russia is basically boiling the frog, and we'll see what happens there. And here, so Fox also has a story on that. What are we going to do about it? And because it's not a direct incursion, it's a little bit difficult, isn't it, for countries to decide what to do about it. Of course, you're going to shoot down the drones that come over, develop better defenses against drones. Drones, I think, are, as I understand, are much harder to defend against than, say, ballistic missiles, because drones are small and highly maneuverable. So anyway, we'll see what comes of this. But basically, it's obvious that the nature of war has changed with the introduction of drones into weapons arsenal of the countries. So, all right, let's see here. Okay. Yeah, okay. I like to talk about money sometimes. And remember, I don't know if you saw the video of the Russian finance guy. And I think the king referred to this in one of his tweets, I think, or I'm still saying tweet, aren't I? But I mean, what else are you going to say? Post? Well, not so bland. One of his posts on X. But Tether CEO confirms major capital raise at a reported $500 billion valuation. So to review, in case you haven't seen that video, the Russian finance minister or some finance guy in Russia was saying that the United States is pursuing a certain strategy to cancel its debt. And he says what the United States is doing is that it's going to issue these stable coins, perhaps CBDC, well, not CBDC, at least not for now, but anyway, stable coins in the United States. And these stablecoin issuers will be required to purchase US debt. All right, so $1 for every dollar of stablecoin that is issued, the issuer has to purchase $1 of US debt. And that's what keeps the price of the stablecoin stable, because it's backed by stable US debt. Of course, you know why I'm doing the air quotes, right? Because US dollar is actually not stable. But like I say, this is a kabuki show, so just sit back and enjoy the show, right? Don't get too technical. Yes, I know the US dollar is has lost to something like 98% of its value since 1913, and even but still it's stable. Okay, you got to go along with the narrative, all right? Anyway, so the Russian guy says the U.S. is issuing these stable coins, requiring the issuers to buy U.S. debt, and then once all of U.S. debt is backed by stable coins, then they're going to crash the stable coins somehow, and then that will. All right, yes, I got knocked off. You like that? I got knocked off. How do you like that? Anyway, I'm back. I'm back, aren't I? Tech team? Okay, thank you. So he says that, when the US debt is all backed by stable coins or all transferred into stable coins, then they're going to crash the stable coins, and then that will wipe out the US debt and they will just start from zero, is basically what he's saying. In my own mind, I'm not really sure how that would work, right? Okay, so how are you going to crash the stable coins? It's not clear to me how that would happen. Um, but anyway, I'm sure the Russian guy who said this is probably a lot smarter than I am. So perhaps it's true somehow. So following though, we see that Tether now is issuing $500 million of, in addition to what they already have, another 500 billion. I'm not sorry, not million, billion, $500 billion of capital that they are raising. And the way they raise this, I'm sure, is that they are going to uh, create more stable coins, I guess. Let's look at it. But one thing interesting about Tether, they're the issuer of the largest stable coin, which is what is it called? Um, well, Tether is what it's called, I guess. Okay. Tether stablecoin. And the interesting thing is that you know where they're putting their profits? Because they have a lot of profits. Because they buy debt, right? And they don't pay any interest to the people that they issue these stablecoins to. They don't pay them anything. But they're holding the debt, which means that they get paid by the US government. Interest on the debt that they're receiving. So it's a pretty good business model. You just sit there and you're just collecting money. Okay. But interestingly, what they're doing with that money is that they are buying gold with that money, with their profits. Ah, you thought that cryptocurrency people didn't like gold and gold people didn't like cryptocurrency. Well, Tether's sort of playing on both teams here. Okay. Anyway, it's interesting. A lot of stuff is going on. All right. The issue of the world's largest stablecoin is evaluating a major fundraising round. The deal could reportedly put the crypto company's value on par with OpenAI. The crypto company is looking to raise between 15 billion and 20 billion in exchange for a roughly 3% stake through a private placement, the report said. Okay. 3% of what? And so the El Salvador-based company, yeah, they used to be in Hong Kong, but they moved to El Salvador, is looking to so are we talking about in OpenAI? Plans to fundraise, okay. The funds would maximize the scale of Tether's strategy across existing and new business lines by several orders of magnitude. Those business lines include stablecoins. We're for 500 billion here. However, the deal could ultimately value Tether at around $500 billion. Oh, I see. Okay, so that's kind of a pie in the sky future valuation, right? That would mean the crypto giant's valuation would rival some of the world's biggest private companies, including SpaceX and OpenAI. OpenAI's fundraising round earlier this year valued the tech company at $300 billion. Tether, which was once accused of being a criminal's go-to cryptocurrency, has been furthering its plans to return to the US in recent months, given President Donald Trump's pro-crypto stance. The company earlier this month named a CEO for its US business and launched a new token for businesses and institutions in the US called USAT, which will be regulated in the US under the Genius Act. So this is what the Russian guy is saying, that this Genius Act is actually represents the US's effort to ultimately cancel its debt through stablecoins. Right now, the Tether has a market cap of $172 billion. Okay. In second place, so the second largest stable coin is Circle's USDC stablecoin, which is worth about $74 billion. So this is how many coins that they've issued and how much money they've taken in. They've taken in 107, they've sold, or shall we say, they've exchanged $172 billion for stablecoins. Right? And uh, and stablecoins are, as I understand, I ever, I think I did once. Yes, I did once make a transaction in stablecoins just to see what it was like, and then I haven't done it since. But as I understand, stablecoins are mainly used by people who sort of like to go in and out of cryptocurrencies quickly, or go from one exchange to another quickly. Because with stablecoin, you can do that very quickly. Whereas if you're just using actual dollars, if you're working through banks, then going across international borders costs a lot of money or takes a lot of time. The time is measured in days, whereas with a stablecoin, it would be measured in seconds. So that's why people like to use stable coins. At least that's the case for now. All right. So whether the Russian guy's prediction comes true or not, something that we'll have to wait and see. Something we'll have to wait and see. As I was mentioning yesterday, I think a little bit when I was going overtime, it's always puzzled me that the U.S. government has decided to, especially the Trump administration and his family, have decided to support Bitcoin and cryptocurrency because, on the one hand, they are saying that the dollar is great. The dollar has to, be king forever and ever and ever. And then somebody in here wants to deliver something. Yeah. What is it? It's a package. Okay, bring it in here. Nonverbal communication. Okay. I think he understood. I think he's a I think he's a delivery guy. Anyway, we'll see what happens. I don't know. I think he's a, you I don't know. Anyway, so anyway, it's always confused me because ultimately it seems to me that the two are on a collision course. Bitcoin and crypto, especially Bitcoin. Yeah, sure enough, he's bringing pizzas. Okay, okay, here, over there, over there. Okay. He's bringing pizzas. Oh, you can't get in? Okay, hold on a second. Anyway, so enough of that. But we'll see how this whole thing plays out. It's very interesting. The financial system of the world is changing before our eyes. And this is the kind of history that we're going to be. Well, I already have grandchildren, but those people who are young right now will be talking to their grandchildren about, oh yes, how they lived through this and how they witnessed this a change in the financial system of the world. Let's see. Okay, so that's so much Tether. Let's um let's cover this. Um, some people may have I don't know, kind of a negative reaction to this particular story, but I want to just put it out there because we take in all opinions, right? And it's someone's who's in a position to know is saying something, so I think we ought to pay attention to it. What we do with it once we receive the information is up to us. But TPUSA spokesperson says absolute miracle may have saved lives during Charlie Kirk's assassination. The spokesman said the bullet that killed Kirk was stopped by his body and potentially saved other people's lives. So I know some people are making an issue of the fact that the only wound in his neck was in the front, and they're assuming that this is an exit wound and that the shot must have come from behind. But actually, this man is saying something different. He's basically saying that the bullet never exited Kirk's body. A spokesperson for Turning Point USA provided an update on the assassination of the group's founder, Charlie Kirk, earlier in September, and said Kirk's body stopped the bullet from producing an exit wound. Citing a surgeon at the hospital that assisted Kirk, spokesman Andrew Clovett wrote in a post on X that the bullet that killed Kirk on September 10 at Utah Valley University absolutely should have gone through, which is very, very normal for a high-powered, high-velocity round. I've seen wounds from this caliber many times, and they always just go through everything. The surgeon said, according to Clovett's post, this would have been a moose or two down or an elk. But the bullet didn't go through because Charlie's body stopped it, Clovett said in the September 20 post. I mentioned to his doctor that there were dozens of staff, students, and special guests standing directly behind Charlie on the other side of the tent. He said the doctor then told Clovett, according to his post, that it was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed by the bullet. According to the doctor, the shot likely would have killed those standing behind Kirk, too. Even in death, Charlie managed to save the lives of those around him. Clovett wrote, noting that the doctor told him that the bullet had been recovered. So the bullet was recovered. And I think that's an important piece of information. So the bullet never exited the body. So the surgeon is saying that the wound that we saw was not an exit wound. It was an entry wound. It was discovered underneath Kirk's skin. Officials have said the gun in the shooting was a Mauser 98 model chambered in .30-06. According to prosecutors, the suspected assassin, Tyler Robinson, had told a male with whom he was in a romantic relationship. This is the Epic Times. Thank you very much, Epic Times. Okay. That it was his grandfather's gun. Authorities also said DNA on the trigger of the rifle that killed Kirk matched that of Robinson. So I want to know, though, have they matched the gun to the bullet? And apparently that may not be so easy. I don't know, but I hope they are able to do that. Because I still have a question. My question is, what was the gun doing in the wooded area? That's my major question that I would like, and I'm just asking a question, right? I'm not drawing any conclusions right now. But that is a question that has not been answered for me. So he shoots the guy and he takes the rifle, whether he disassembles or whatever, I don't know about that. But anyway, he takes it off the roof and he goes into a wooded area and he puts it down, wrapped, I guess, in something or other. And then later on, he's texting that he has to go back and get the gun. So why did you leave it there in the first place? Is my question. It's a question, and I would appreciate having an answer to that. The authorities have released text messages said to be between Robinson and his partner, whom prosecutors said identifies as a transgender female and was Robinson's roommate. In these messages, Robinson allegedly said he plotted the attack for about a week and used a scope. And we've already heard about that kind of stuff. Can't be wonder about that. Okay. He made his first court appearance last week with a judge declaring the suspect indigent and provisionally appointing a public defender. That public defender has not yet been named. The suspect faces capital aggravated murder, etc. So my question is not answered in this post. And all the articles that I read just sort of mentioned that fact that the gun was in the wooded area, without trying to go into the reason or the rationale behind his leaving it there. What happened? What was his purpose for leaving the gun there and then wanting to go back and get it later on? That's a contradiction in my mind that it's a question. That's all. It's a question. That's all it is. All right. And I think at this point, the way to deal with these kinds of things, these kinds of incidents, is to ask questions. I know some people feel pushed to draw conclusions within the first 5 minutes. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but certainly within the first 24 hours, right? They'll start drawing conclusions. Um, I don't think that's a wise thing because we don't have all the facts within the first 24 hours. Look, just for example, this information that the bullet was recovered inside the body. It was recovered inside the body. Moving on, moving on, moving on, moving on. All right, let's see what else is going on. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right, so what shall we do? Shall we take a look at some Breitbart headlines? So yeah, Breitbart is going after Kimmel. All right. Et cetera, et cetera. Rob Reiner, a far lefty, Hollywood lefty. He's kind of one of the most prominent members of the Hollywood political party. Trump bringing U.S. to a point where we might lose democracy. That, of course, is what was happening before President Trump came into office. And if Kamala Harris had won the election and if she had been inaugurated last January, we definitely, not might, we definitely would be losing democracy about this time. All right. Let's see here. North Carolina House passes Irina's law in honor of Irina Zarutska. She's the Ukrainian refugee who was killed by that knife attack in what was that, in a subway or some sort of a public transportation. We saw that photograph of the guy standing behind her with a large knife in his right hand, and he's raised the knife up above his head, and ready, in the photograph he's ready to strike, to bring the hand down, the arm down, and strike her with that knife, and just kill her before she knew what was happening. And he didn't even know her; it was just a random attack. So this House law is going to, I guess they think this is going to stop future such attacks. Pass a criminal justice package named after the Ukrainian refugee. Would focus on eliminated cashless bail for many crimes and would limit the discretion that magistrates and judges have in making pretrial release decisions, according to the Associated Press. All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's okay. I'm just thinking though that the United States already has the highest percentage of its population incarcerated, but many of those are for drug offenses um, that could be dealt with in other ways. So perhaps I think this kind of guy probably he should not have been let out. He should have been in jail. Okay, this is another photograph, one that we didn't see before. I'm not sure exactly what's happening here. Does he have a knife in his right hand? Can't quite tell, but obviously she's in fear, and he's in a very aggressive attack mode. Okay, but it doesn't look like she's been wounded yet. Breitbart News reported that the suspect behind the fatal stabbing Is this a video? No, it's not. Okay. Was arrested and charged with first-degree murder after Jaruska was stabbed in the throat while riding the train on August 22nd. Etc. Okay. All right. All right, that's all the time we have for today. So tomorrow we will not have a King's Report because tomorrow is a holy day. Tomorrow is the 10th anniversary of Foundation Day. And I know people who are not familiar with the Sanctuary Church will say, what? But I'll explain it all. Just to watch the event beginning at 7 a.m. Taiwan time. 7 a.m. Taiwan time is when it will begin. All right, so I will see you on Friday, right? Oh, today was Wednesday. I was supposed to do something else. Oh. I've been so busy, I wasn't even thinking about that. All right, we'll do that something else on Friday or Saturday, one or the other, depending on what the news situation is. I apologize. All right, I'll see you on Friday. God bless, Godspeed, may His kingdom come quickly.